They say grief comes in waves. What they don't tell you is that sometimes those waves arrive all at once, crashing over you in a parking lot outside a grocery store on an otherwise ordinary Tuesday afternoon. While you're holding a canvas bag full of food you no longer have any reason to cook for two. That was where Reyes found herself on the afternoon of October 14th. Exactly 11 months after burying her wife, she'd been doing well, or so she'd been telling herself. She'd gone back to work at her architectural firm after 6 weeks of leave. She'd started jogging again in the mornings. She'd even really laughed at something her coworker Priya had said about their insufferable project manager. She'd felt that laugh like a small, fragile miracle, guilty and bright at the same time, but grief, as Maya was learning, does not ask permission. It doesn't wait for a convenient moment. It arrives in the cereal aisle when you reach for the brand your wife loved, the one with the little honey drizzle on the box, and your hand closes around it before your brain catches up. And then you're standing there with Lucky Charms pressed against your chest, and the sound of your own heartbeat is suddenly very, very loud. She'd managed to pay for her groceries. She'd even smiled at the cashier, a teenage boy who'd asked if she had a rewards card. She'd said yes, she did, and she'd handed it over. And the whole time her chest had been tightening like a fist closing around her ribs, the panic attack hit her, in the parking lot, next to her silver Honda Civic, on a clear October afternoon when the sky was that particular shade of blue that Daniela had once said was her favorite color. October sky blue. That's what she called it. Maya had teased her. That's not a real color. And Daniela had laughed, throwing her head back the way she did, her dark curls bouncing. Everything is a real color if you can see it. Maya's vision was narrowing. The bag slipped from her fingers. She heard the thump of it hitting the asphalt, the dull clatter of a can rolling away, and she couldn't breathe. She genuinely could not breathe. Her lungs were seizing, her hands were trembling, and the blue sky was pressing down on her like something heavy and infinite. She made it to the side of her car. She pressed her back against the warm metal and slid down until she was sitting on the ground, her knees pulled up, her head between them. She was dimly aware that people might be watching. She didn't care. She couldn't afford to care. She was using all of her remaining resources simply on the task of existing. Hey, are you okay? The voice came from nearby. Low, calm, steady. The kind of voice that sounded like it was used to emergencies. Maya couldn't look up. She shook her head, a small desperate motion. Okay, that's okay. Can you hear me? Yes, Maya managed. It came out as barely a sound. Good, that's good. I'm going to crouch down here next to you, okay? Is that all right? Maya nodded again. She heard the soft sound of someone settling beside her, not touching her, just present. She could see a pair of boots from the corner of her tilted vision. Work boots, sturdy and worn. Dark pants. Not a police uniform. Not a paramedic. You're having a panic attack, the voice said. Matter of fact, not unkind. Like she was telling Maya something useful. They feel terrible, but they pass. You're not dying. Your body just thinks you are. Great, Maya whispered. Yeah. There was a warmth in that word, something almost like amusement, gentle and careful. I know, I'm going to talk you through some breathing. You don't have to do anything except listen to my voice and try to breathe with me. Can you do that? I think so. Breathe in for 4 counts. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 2, 3, 4. Now out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good. Let's go again. Maya breathed. Or tried to. The first few cycles were ragged and broken, but the voice stayed steady, counting softly, never rushing, never showing impatience. Gradually, so gradually that Maya almost didn't notice, the iron band around her chest began to loosen, after what might have been 5 minutes or 20. Maya looked up. The woman crouched beside her was somewhere in her mid-30s, with short-cropped dark hair going silver at the temples, warm brown skin, and dark eyes that were currently watching Maya with an expression of focused, professional calm. She was wearing a department-issue navy t-shirt with a small fire department logo on the chest. Off-duty, Maya thought distantly. She was off-duty and she'd stopped anyway. There you are, the woman said. Not condescending. More like relief. Sorry, Maya said automatically. Don't apologize. You didn't do anything wrong. The woman sat back, giving Maya a little more space now that the immediate crisis seemed to have passed. I'm Rosalind Torres. I'm a firefighter with Station 12 off duty today, Maya Reyes. She felt strange giving her name in this context. Like meeting someone at a party, except she was sitting on a parking lot floor. I don't usually, she gestured vaguely. I know, Roz said. They come out of nowhere sometimes. Maya looked at her more carefully. There was something in the way she said it, not theoretical. Personal, do you? Maya started. Used to, Roz said simply. After a bad call a few years back. They get better. A pause. Or you get better at them. I'm not sure which. Maya laughed, a short, broken sound, but real. Roz's mouth curved slightly in response. Is there someone I can call for you? Roz asked. Someone to drive you home? Maya thought of her sister in Phoenix. Her coworker Priya, who would drop everything, no questions asked. Her mother, who would come and then spend the entire visit trying to help in ways that exhausted Maya more than grief did. I'll be okay, Maya said. I'm okay now. She tested this statement, checking it against her internal state. It was approximately true. She was no longer in crisis. She was just sitting on a parking lot floor next to a firefighter with a rolling can of Lucky Charms somewhere nearby. I'll just sit for a minute and then I'll drive home. Roz looked at her steadily. I've got nowhere to be. I'll sit with you. Maya wanted to refuse. She had her pride. She had her carefully constructed habits of self-sufficiency, the armor she built over the past 11 months. But the October sky was still very blue, and she was very tired. And the woman sitting beside her on the parking lot asphalt seemed to have no agenda except simple human kindness. Okay, Maya said. Thank you. They sat there together for a while, not talking while the parking lot went about its ordinary business around. Then Roz helped her collect her groceries. The errand can have rolled halfway under a neighboring truck and then walked with her to her car and waited until Maya had successfully started the engine before raising a hand in farewell and walking away. Maya watched her go in the rearview mirror, that unhurried, self-possessed walk. Hands in her pockets, she thought about her for 3 days. This bothered Maya on multiple levels, none of which she was entirely ready to examine. For 11 months, she had existed in a state of emotional numbness that felt like the only survivable option. She'd loved Daniela with everything she had, and losing her, a car accident, sudden and senseless and deeply unfair, had felt like losing the version of herself that knew how to be happy. Feeling nothing had been a kind of protection. Thinking about a stranger, even in the vague, recurring way she found herself doing, felt like waking up. Like blood returning to a limb that had fallen asleep. Uncomfortable, tingling, disorienting. She told herself it was gratitude. The woman had helped her through a frightening moment with skill and compassion. It was natural to think about someone who'd done that. It meant nothing beyond simple human appreciation. She went back to the grocery store on Friday. She told herself this was because she needed eggs. She did not see the firefighter. She bought eggs. And also, without planning to, a box of Lucky Charms. On Monday morning, Priya appeared at Maya's desk with 2 coffees and an expression that said she was about to be perceptive in ways Maya hadn't asked for. Priya was 32, small, brilliant, perpetually caffeinated, and the kind of friend who noticed things. You look different, Priya said, setting a coffee down in front of Maya. I look exactly the same. No, you look like someone who has something on their mind that isn't work or grief. Which is new. Priya sat on the edge of Maya's desk with a casual disregard for professional boundaries that Maya normally found either irritating or comforting depending on her mood. Today it was comforting. Tell me. Maya told her. The parking lot, the panic attack, the firefighter and her steady voice counting breaths, the sitting together in silence afterward. She tried to make it sound like a simple story about human kindness, because that was what it was. Priya listened with the expression of someone professionally engaged and not reacting. What was her name? Priya asked when Maya finished. Rosalind Torres. And you've been thinking about her, out of gratitude. Sure, Priya said, in a tone that meant something other than agreement. She picked up her coffee. You know, Station 12 is 6 blocks from here. I know where the fire stations are. Priya, it's part of my job to know the city's infrastructure layout. Just saying. I'm not going to show up at a fire station. Lots of people bring coffee and donuts to fire stations. It's a whole thing. I'm not. Maya stopped. Picked up her own coffee. She's probably not even there when I go. Fire departments work shifts. Priya's expression became deeply satisfied in a way that made Maya want to throw something. I didn't say anything. You implied everything. I implied that you know how shift scheduling works at fire stations, which tells me you've thought about this more than you're admitting. Maya had, in fact, looked it up. 24 hours on, 48 hours off with some variation by station. She had not done this because she was planning anything. She had done it the same way she looked up the construction timelines of historical buildings. Professional habit. The gathering of information. I'm going back to work, Maya said. The donuts at Hanson's Bakery are really good, Priya said, retreating. Just FYI. Maya brought coffee and donuts from Hanson's Bakery to Station 12 on a Wednesday afternoon, telling herself the entire time that this was a perfectly normal thing that people did, that she was simply being a civic-minded citizen, that she would drop the things off and leave immediately and stop thinking about firefighters. She wore her work clothes, which she also told herself meant nothing, a charcoal blazer over a white blouse, dark slacks, her good boots. She looked professional. This was what she looked like on a Wednesday. This had nothing to do with anything. The station was a handsome old brick building on Clement Street, with 2 large garage doors currently open to reveal the gleaming bodies of a ladder truck and an engine. A young man in a t-shirt was washing the engine with great concentration, hosing water across its red flanks with the particular satisfaction of someone who takes their vehicle seriously. He looked up when Maya approached. Can I help you? I brought coffee and donuts, Maya said, holding up the bakery bag. For the station. From Hanson's. The young man's face transformed. Oh man. Hanson's? Come in, come in. He set down the hose. Hey, Captain. Someone brought Hanson's. Maya was ushered in with an enthusiasm that somewhat deflated her sense of this being a meaningful gesture. She was clearly just another member of the public bringing treats to a fire station. This was apparently a regular occurrence and a highly appreciated one. Several firefighters materialized from various parts of the building with the speed and coordination that suggested a well-practiced response to the word Hanson's. And then Roz came around the corner of the apparatus bay and saw her. And stopped. She was in uniform, her dark hair pulled back under a cap she hadn't bothered to adjust. She looked clean and capable and somewhat surprised. Maya managed not to drop the bakery bag. Hi, Maya said. Hi, Roz said. Then, after a moment, Maya Reyes. I wanted to say thank you. Properly, Maya held out the bag, which was already being descended upon by the young man who'd been washing the engine. Is that okay? Is it weird to come here? It's a little weird. I'm sorry. It's not weird, Roz said. She was smiling now, just slightly. It's actually one of the nicer things that happens on a shift. She came forward and took one of the coffee cups from Maya, and for a moment their fingers were close without touching. How are you doing? Better, Maya said. I've been better. I have a therapist. She wasn't sure why she'd added that. I've had a therapist for a while, but we've been doing more work on the... She gestured at herself, the vague region of her chest. The panic side of things. Good. Roz sounded like she meant it. That's really good. They looked at each other. Around them, the station had more or less absorbed the coffee and donuts and returned to its various occupations, leaving them in a small bubble of relative quiet near the edge of the apparatus bay. Would you like a tour? Roz asked. Maya had not planned on this, but she said yes before she'd finished thinking about it. The tour was thorough and conducted with the kind of quiet pride people have in their workplaces when they genuinely love what they do. Roz showed Maya the engines and the equipment, explaining things in plain language without condescension, answering Maya's questions with patience. Maya asked good questions. She always did. It was the architectural training, the habit of understanding how systems fit together, and Roz seemed to appreciate them. The station house itself was nicer than Maya had expected. A communal kitchen with a long table, A common room with mismatched furniture and a television, a weight room. A row of small sleeping areas that Roz referred to as the dorms, with the resigned affection of someone who has slept in worse places. It's a good crew, Roz said, looking around the common room where two firefighters were engaged in what appeared to be a serious argument about something happening on a cooking show. You spend this much time with people, they become family. A small pause. The good kind and the annoying kind. How long have you been here? Maya asked. Station 12, 6 years. Department 12, what made you? Maya gestured at the station around them. Roz considered this question with the attention it deserved rather than reaching for an easy answer. Maya appreciated that. My uncle was a firefighter. I grew up around it. But also I like the work. I like that it's useful and real in present tense. You know what I mean? It's not abstract. Whatever is happening, you're there for it. That makes sense, Maya said, and it did. She thought about her own work, the way a building started as lines on paper and became something real and physical that people lived and worked inside. The present tense nature of it. I'm an architect, she said, though she hadn't been asked. I know, Roz said. You told me in the parking lot. She looked a little amused at Maya's expression. You told me your name, and then you said you worked at an architectural firm on Geary. Maya had no memory of saying the last part. I did? You were getting your bearings. People say things. Roz shrugged. I didn't look you up or anything. That would be weird. I looked up fire station shift schedules, Maya said. Before she could stop herself, there was a beat. Did you? Roz said. I was curious about the scheduling system, Maya said. Professionally. The spatial logistics of 24-hour shifts and how they affect station design. Maya's face was warm. She picked up her coffee, which she'd barely touched during the tour. I should go. I have work. Sure, Roz said, walking her toward the exit. Thanks for the Hansons. You don't have to thank me, you know. It's the job. It was more than the job, Maya said. Roz looked at her. In the afternoon light coming through the station house door, her eyes were very dark and very warm. Yeah, she said quietly. Maybe it was. Maya walked the 6 blocks back to her office and sat at her desk for a while before opening her laptop. Priya appeared with fresh coffee without being asked. Don't say anything, Maya said. I'm not saying anything. Priya said they both knew she was saying everything. Maya had met Daniela on a Thursday evening at an art gallery opening in the Mission. 8 years ago. Maya had been looking at a large abstract painting in deep blues and terracottas, and a voice beside her had said, it looks like it's either very angry or very in love. Maybe both. Maya had turned to find a woman about her own age, with dark curly hair and paint-stained fingers and an expression of genuine engagement with the art. Not the performative appreciation Maya so often saw at these things. Which do you think? Maya had asked. Both, Daniela had said firmly. The best things usually are. They'd spent the rest of the evening talking. Daniela was a muralist that explained the paint, who was also, improbably, working on a doctorate in urban sociology, which she explained with cheerful vagueness as studying why cities look like feelings. Maya had found this simultaneously baffling and perfect. They'd been together for 2 years before they got married, and married for 5 years before Daniela's car had been hit by a driver, running a red light on a rainy November morning. 7 years total. 7 years. And then 11 months of learning to exist in a world that no longer had Daniela in it. Maya's therapist, Dr. Ose, was a steady and thoughtful woman who had guided Maya through the worst of the immediate grief and was now helping her navigate what came after, the territory of the survivor. Who has to figure out who they are when the person who knew them best is gone? Tell me about the parking lot again, Dr. Ose said at their next session. Because Maya had told her about it and she knew, as therapists do, that the things clients circle back to are usually the things that matter. I've told you. Tell me what struck you about her. Maya thought about this carefully, as she tried to think about most things. She didn't make it smaller, she said finally. She didn't say, you're fine, it's okay, calm down. She said it was real and it was hard and it would pass. She treated it like a real thing, And how did that feel? Like being seen, Maya said. And then, because she was honest with herself, which I haven't felt in a long time, Dr. Asay nodded, writing nothing, looking at Maya steadily. And you went to see her? With coffee and donuts. I went to say thank you. And it was, I don't know, easy being there. Talking to her. Maya turned her coffee cup around in her hands. I haven't felt at ease with a new person in a long time. Since before, that's significant. I know. Maya looked up. Is it too soon? Dr. Asay was quiet for a moment, choosing her words. Grief doesn't have a schedule. And there's no threshold of appropriate time after which you're allowed to be a person again. But it's worth asking yourself, what would it mean if it wasn't too soon? And what would you be afraid of? Maya went home and didn't call Roz. She didn't have Roz's number. She'd thought about this, which was its own information. She ate cereal for dinner, not Lucky Charms. Something more responsible, and sat on her balcony in the dark and listened to the city. Which was always there, which had always been there. Which didn't care what she'd lost. She was afraid, she realized, of finding out that she was capable of wanting something again. Because wanting something again meant having something to lose again. That night she dreamed of Daniela, which happened less often now than it used to. In the dream they were at the art gallery, looking at the Angry in Love painting, and Daniela turned to her and said, with great clarity, don't make grief into a life. Maya, it's not a life. Maya woke up at 3 and lay in the dark for a long time. In the morning she found Station 12's public phone number and called and asked for Rosalind Torres. This is Torres. It's Maya, Reyes, from the parking lot. And then I know who you are. There was warmth in it. I have exactly one person in my phone listed as parking lot Maya. That's, Maya laughed, startled. You have my number? Emilio, the one who was washing the engine, looked up your firm when you said you were an architect. He wrote the main number on a post-it and stuck it to my locker. I think he was trying to be helpful, and you kept it. A pause. I kept it. Maya sat with that for a moment. I wanted to ask if you'd like to get coffee. Or dinner, I don't know which. She stopped. Actually, I do know which. Dinner. Would you like to get dinner? Yes, Roz said. Without hesitation, they went to a small Japanese restaurant in the Richmond that Maya had been to with Daniela a handful of times, which she chose intentionally on Dr. Osei's gentle encouragement. You don't have to quarantine your history. You can take your life with you. She was nervous walking in, but the nervousness settled when the waiter seated them and the restaurant was just a restaurant, warm light. Good smells, the muted hum of other people's conversations. Roz arrived exactly on time. In dark jeans and a light gray sweater, her short silver-streaked hair neat and slightly damp like she'd showered recently. She looked, Maya thought, like a person who was trying just a little. The same way Maya was. They both seemed to recognize this in each other, and it made things easier. Over edamame and miso, they traded the basics. Roz was 37, born and raised in the Mission to a Mexican-American family, the youngest of 3 sisters. She played soccer in high school and briefly in college before deciding that wasn't the direction she wanted to go. She'd been with the department since she was 25, and she loved it still, which she seemed to find slightly remarkable about herself. Most things get less interesting the longer you do them, she said. This one doesn't. Architecture does that for me, Maya said. Every project is a puzzle. Different constraints, different people, different sites. It never becomes routine. What kind of buildings? Mixed use, mostly. Residential and commercial. Some civic projects. We did a branch library 2 years ago that I'm still proud of. She paused. I used to do more of the aesthetic, conceptual work. Since Daniela, she said the name carefully, watching it land, I've leaned into the technical side. It's easier to be in the details. Roz received the name without flinching or overreacting, just absorbed it into the conversation with a nod. Your wife. Yes, she died 14 months ago. Car accident? I'm sorry. 2 words, but she meant them. Not the performative condolence Maya had heard so often that the syllables had started to feel hollow. Real. Thank you. Maya picked up her chopsticks. I'm telling you now at the beginning of dinner, so it's not a thing that has to be navigated carefully later. She was real and she was important, and I don't want to pretend she wasn't. Roz looked at her with something that might have been respect. I appreciate that. She paused. I haven't been in a relationship in 3 years. I'm not a widow, so I can't pretend to understand what you've been through, but I know something about the way you can let time pass without really choosing to. What happened? Maya asked. We wanted different things in the end. She wanted to leave the city. I didn't want to leave the department. Roz looked at her glass of water. Sometimes the honest answer isn't dramatic. We were just going in different directions. That still hurts, Maya said. It did. Roz looked up. It doesn't now. Most things stop hurting eventually. Maya thought about whether to believe this, and decided she did. The food came and they ate, and talked about many things. The particular pleasure of walking in a city you know well. The way first responders and architects both think about spaces, but in completely different ways. Roz's family, which was loud and affectionate and frequently overwhelming in ways she seemed to love and need in equal measure. Maya's sister in Phoenix, who called every Sunday and always said the wrong thing and meant it perfectly. They stayed until the restaurant began giving them the gentle cues that it was time to go. And then they walked out into the cool October night and stood on the sidewalk. Thank you for dinner, Roz said. Thank you for coming. A pause. The city breathed around them, familiar and indifferent. I'd like to do this again, Roz said. If you want to. I want to, Maya said. And it was frightening and real and true. They went on 4 more dates in the following 3 weeks, which Maya did not count but could have recited in order, with the times and locations and small particular details that our architect's brain cataloged out of habit. Coffee on a Sunday morning at a place in the Haight that Roz knew. Small round tables outside under red umbrellas, both of them in jackets because November was arriving. They talked for 3 hours without noticing the time passing. A walk through Crissy Field on a weekday afternoon when Roz was off shift. The bay silver under a pale sky, the bridge red and constant in the distance. Roz had never been to the National Cemetery at the Presidio, so Maya took her there. The quiet rows of white stones, the eucalyptus trees, the particular feeling of a place where sorrow has been allowed to be formal and permanent. They stood together in silence for a while, and it was a comfortable silence, the kind that doesn't need to be filled. Dinner at Maya's apartment, which she'd been cleaning since morning, even while telling herself the cleanliness of her apartment was not a significant variable. She'd made mole, a recipe Daniela's mother had given her years ago. She'd thought about not making it, too loaded, too intimate, and then made it anyway, because the food she knew how to cook well was the food she'd learned in 7 years of a life. She couldn't keep hiding the evidence of that life. Roz had eaten 2 helpings and asked for the recipe. Maya had handed it over on a card, and for a moment they both looked at the card, Daniela's mother's handwriting. Not Maya's, and Roz had taken it carefully, as if she understood what it meant to be entrusted with it. A movie. Chosen by compromise. Something action-heavy enough to satisfy Roz's stated preference for things blowing up, with enough actual story to satisfy Maya's stated preference for things making sense. They sat in the dark theater and their arms were touching on the shared armrest. And at some point during the 3rd act, without discussion, Roz's hand had covered Maya's. Maya had not moved, after the movie, walking to the parking garage where Maya had left her car. Roz had said, I think you're one of the more interesting people I've met in a long time. That's a very careful way of putting something, Maya had said. I'm trying to be careful, Roz had said. About you. A pause. Because you matter. The situation is, it's real, and I don't want to rush it. But I also don't want to be the person who's so cautious they never actually say anything. Maya had stopped walking. What do you want to say? Roz had looked at her in the orange light of the parking garage. That I like you. That I look forward to seeing you. That when I'm at the station and it's 3 a.m. and everything is quiet, I've been thinking about this and whether you're okay. And what you might be doing. Maya's chest was doing something complicated. I've been thinking about you too, she said. At 3 a.m. Yeah, she breathed. I'm scared, she said, because she owed honesty. Not of you. Of caring about someone again. I know that's probably, she looked for the right word. A lot, Roz offered without judgment. Yes, a lot. To put on something new. I know. Roz was very still. I'm not asking you to not be scared. I'm just asking if you want to keep seeing me, scared or not. Maya looked at her. The parking garage hummed. Somewhere a car started. Yes, Maya said. I want to keep seeing you. Roz's smile was slow and real. Okay, she said. Good. She reached out and tucked a strand of Maya's hair back, a small gesture, tentative and gentle. Get home safe. Maya drove home slowly through the November streets and sat in her parked car outside her building for a while. Feeling the strange, unfamiliar weight of hope, Roz Torres had been a firefighter for 12 years. And she still felt the adrenaline. This was something she'd never told anyone except her captain and, eventually Maya, the persistent, unreasonable fear before a call that never went away regardless of experience. The Marine's honest response to danger, she decided, was not something training eliminated, only something training taught you to work alongside. She'd had the panic attacks after the incident at the warehouse, fire 6 years ago, when a ceiling collapse had trapped 2 members of her crew for 4 minutes while she'd worked to clear the debris. Both had made it out. She had not been physically injured. The panic attacks had arrived 2 weeks later, as if her body had been saving the fear for later and then made good on the debt she'd gotten help. This was the thing she was, in some ways, most proud of in her professional life. More than any commendation, that she'd recognized the problem and asked for help before the panic became unmanageable. It had taken almost a year, therapy and peer support and some adjustments to her off-duty life. The panic attacks were gone now. Though she kept the tools she'd learned for when the ordinary, anxiety threatened to become something larger. That was why she'd recognized Maya's panic attack immediately in the parking lot. Not just the training, though that was part of it, but the personal knowledge of what it felt like from the inside. She'd seen the woman slide down the side of her car. And she'd known, and she'd set down her grocery bag and gone over. And nothing about that had felt like a choice. It had felt like the only possible thing to do. She hadn't expected to think about her afterward. She didn't make a habit of thinking about people she helped in the ordinary course of things, or rather, she did think about them in the background. The way you carry a quiet concern for someone you've seen in difficulty, but not like this. Not with the specific, named quality of wanting to know if she was okay. If she was sleeping. What she was working on. What she'd had for dinner when Emilio had stuck the post-it note to her locker. She'd stared at it for a long time before folding it carefully and putting it in her pocket. Her oldest sister, Carmen, who was 42 and had been married for 17 years and therefore felt entitled to opinions about Rose's romantic life, had assessed the situation over the phone with her characteristic directness. She's a widow, Carmen said. I know. So she's still grieving. Probably. And you like her, yes. A pause. Well, that's either complicated or very simple, depending on how you look at it. How do you look at it? I look at it and think you've been alone for 3 years and you're 37 and you liked someone enough to save a phone number on a post-it note. That seems simple enough. She might not be ready. Then you'll find out. And if she's not, you'll wait or you won't. But Rosalind, Carmen only used her full name when she was being particularly serious. Don't talk yourself out of something before you've even tried it. You do that. Roz had this tendency, she knew. The overcautious approach, the tendency to assess all possible outcomes before committing to a course of action. It served her well in a burning building. In her personal life, it had resulted in the slow, careful dissolution of a relationship she'd been too careful to fight for. She was trying to be different about this. She told Maya things she usually kept close. About the warehouse incident and the panic attacks, because it felt dishonest not to, given that it was the thing they had unexpectedly in common. About her father's death from a heart attack when she was 22. The thing that had accelerated her decision to join the department, not morbidly, she'd explained, but because it had made viscerally clear to her that she wanted to do work that mattered while she had time to do it. About the loneliness of 3 a.m. shifts, when the station was quiet and she'd read or lie in the narrow, bunk in the dorms and think too much. Maya listened to all of this with the focused attention of someone who genuinely wanted to understand, not just to be polite. She asked questions that went to the center of things. She didn't flinch from the harder parts. After their 5th date, they were calling them dates now. Without qualification, Roz drove home through the dark city and thought that she hadn't felt this interested in a person in a very long time. Not just attracted to, though she was that increasingly in ways she was managing carefully. But interested, curious, engaged. The way you feel when you're in a conversation. That's teaching me something without being a lesson. She fell asleep quickly that night, which had not always been the case. It happened on a Saturday afternoon in early December, in Maya's apartment, somewhat unexpectedly. Which was probably the best way. They'd been looking at Maya's portfolio. She'd shown Roz the library project, and Roz had asked good, specific questions about the structural choices and the public use considerations. And then they'd ended up in the kitchen making tea. And the conversation had wandered comfortably into other territory. And at some point the distance between them had become very small without either of them particularly navigating it that way. Maya had said something she couldn't afterward recall exactly what, and Roz had looked at her. And Maya had looked back, and then Roz had reached out and touched Maya's face with 2 fingers. A question. Maya had leaned into it. The kiss was careful and warm and brief. And they both pulled back after it and looked at each other in the kitchen light. Was that okay? Roz asked. Yes, Maya said. Her voice was not quite steady. Very okay. Roz exhaled. Good. She looked down, something almost shy in it, which was endearing in someone who ran into burning buildings. I've been thinking about that for a while. Me too, Maya admitted. They finished making tea and sat on Maya's couch. And the world had the particular quality of a day that has shifted irrevocably but quietly. The way a season changes, not all at once, but in a way you can't take back. Maya cried a little later after Roz had gone home. Not badly, not in the way of the early grief, but quietly, sitting at her kitchen table with her tea cooling in front of her. She was crying for Daniela, she thought, and also for herself, and also from something that was adjacent to relief, the knowledge that she was capable of this still. That the machinery of wanting and feeling and opening towards someone was still intact somewhere inside. She texted Dr. Osais, answering service to request an appointment for next week. Then she texted Roz. Thank you for today. The response came back quickly. Thank you for the tea. And the rest of it. Maya smiled at her phone. She had not smiled at her phone in a genuinely felt way in 14 months. She went to bed at a reasonable hour and slept, without dreaming. The complications arrived. As complications tend to, when things were going well enough that their arrival felt particularly cruel. The first complication was external and sudden. A 3-alarm fire at a commercial building in Soma in mid-December that kept Station 12 working for 14 hours and put 2 of Roz's crew members in the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Maya found out from the news, which was a terrible way to find out. The kind that made her stomach drop and her hands go cold and her mind to a place she did not want to go. Roz texted when they came off the scene. I'm okay. It was a long one. Tell you about it later. Later turned out to be 20 hours later, after Roz had slept and debriefed and been cleared by the department counselor. When she arrived at Maya's door, she looked tired in a deep, bone-level way that was not just the tiredness of missing sleep. Maya let her in and made food without asking. Pasta with what she had in the refrigerator, and Roz sat at the kitchen table and talked about it. What had happened, what they'd done, the 2 crew members who were injured. The relief of knowing they were going to be fine. The particular exhaustion of a night like that. Maya listened. She didn't say it was going to be okay. She didn't fill the air with reassurances. She sat across the table and listened and refilled the pasta and was present. When Roz finished eating, she said, "Thank you for not saying it's fine." "It's not fine," Maya said. 2 people got hurt. You had a hard night. That's real. Most people want to make it smaller, so they feel better about it. I know, Maya said. She thought of the parking lot, Roz telling her, "You're having a panic attack." They feel terrible, but they pass. The same gift, not making it smaller. She was giving it back. They sat together until Roz's exhaustion became unavoidable. And then Maya insisted she sleep at the apartment rather than drive home, and made up the couch with clean blankets and went to her own room. In the morning, Roz had made coffee before Maya woke up, And they sat in the early light and didn't say very much. And it was good. The second complication was internal. And harder, Maya had been doing well by most measures. The panic attacks were less frequent, 3 in the past month, down from what had been nearly daily. Her work was going well. She'd been given lead responsibility on a new mixed-use project that excited her. She was sleeping and eating and exercising and doing all the things Dr. Osei called the basic maintenance of being a person, with some reliability, but grief does not travel in a straight line. And December had always been a difficult month. The anniversary of the accident was in November. Christmas had been Daniela's holiday. She'd gone all out. The lights and the cookies and the specific playlist she'd had since college. The first Christmas without her had been the worst month of Maya's life. This December was better, but better in the way of someone who has learned to swim in deep water. They're surviving. But they know the depth. She told Roz this at dinner in late December. In the specific and deliberate way she'd been trying to communicate, not as a warning or an apology, but as information. As this is what's true right now. December is hard, she said. I might be, she searched for the right word. Less available. Inside myself. Okay, Roz said, without drama. I'm not pushing you away, Maya said carefully. I'm just telling you what's true. I know. Roz looked at her steadily. What do you need from me? In December? Maya thought about this. It was a remarkable question, she thought. Not what do you want me to do or how can I fix it? What do you need? I don't know yet. To know you're there. To not feel like I have to perform being okay when I'm not. You never have to perform okay with me. I know, Maya said. That's why I'm telling you. December passed. This was the thing Maya kept telling herself through the hard days of it, that December had done so before and would do so again. And the math of that, the simple arithmetic of time and survival, was something she could hold on to when the rest of it felt unsolvable. Roz was there in the way she promised to be. Available, present, undemanding. She didn't try to make December cheerful or fix it or distract Maya from it. She brought food occasionally, good simple things she made herself, rice and beans, the way her mother had taught her. Tamales that her sister Carmen had sent from a batch she'd made for Christmas. She didn't require Maya to be entertaining or okay. On the anniversary of Daniela's accident, the 14th of November, they were past it, December now. But the weight had been building toward it. Maya had spent the day quietly at Daniela's favorite spot in Golden Gate Park, with a sketchbook she hadn't used in over a year. She drew the trees, the light, the way the park held its quiet. She told Roz what day it was and what she was doing, and Roz had said, "Let me know when you're home." That was all. When Maya texted, "I'm home at 4 in the afternoon," the response had been immediate. "I'll be there in 30 minutes. Bring anything?" Maya had looked at that message for a moment. "Just yourself," she typed back. They'd sat on Maya's couch and Roz had asked Maya to tell her about Daniela. Not in the careful, painful way that people sometimes asked. The way that feels like they're offering you a controlled release valve, but the way you ask someone to tell you about a person you genuinely wish you'd known. So Maya had told her, the art gallery, the murals that Daniela had painted across the city. The cities as feelings dissertation that she'd finished 3 months before the accident. The particular way she laughed with her whole body, the lucky charms. The October sky blue, Roz had listened to all of it. At one point she'd taken Maya's hand, not to comfort, just to be connected. Maya had talked for a long time and it had felt, for the first time, like the talking was making something lighter rather than heavier. She sounds like she was extraordinary, Roz said. When Maya had come to a natural stop. She was, Maya said. And then, which surprised her, I think she'd have liked you. Roz was quiet for a moment. What makes you say that? She liked people who were honest and useful. She had no patience for people who performed. You don't perform. Maya looked at her. And she would have liked that you stopped in that parking lot. She believed in that kind of thing. Doing the thing because it's the right thing, not because anyone's watching. Roz looked slightly undone by this, in a way that was endearing on someone so generally composed. Thank you for telling me that, she said. Thank you for asking. Christmas itself, Maya spent with her mother, who had come up from Los Angeles and who did, in fact, say the wrong things with perfect intentions. and who also cooked an enormous amount of food and held Maya's hand while they watched old holiday movies and fell asleep in the middle of the third one. Maya woke up with her head on her mother's shoulder and felt, underneath the grief and the strangeness, the bedrock of being loved. She texted Roz from her childhood bedroom at midnight, "Merry Christmas." "I'm okay. Merry Christmas. Good. I'm glad. And then, I've been thinking about you all day. Maya had looked at that message for a long time in the dark room. I've been thinking about you too. She typed back, and something had shifted quietly in the direction of hope. January arrived with the particular optimism of fresh starts that Maya had spent the last year being suspicious of. The new year had not, in her experience, known about Daniela. It had arrived on schedule regardless. But there was something about January, the clean numbering of it. The city slightly rearranged after the holidays. The quality of light in the mornings that felt this year. Like possibility rather than cruelty, she went back to the sketchbook. Not the grief sketching of November, the park, the trees, but the design sketching she'd largely abandoned since the accident. She sat at her kitchen table on Sunday mornings and drew things, ideas for buildings, spatial puzzles. The occasional abstract something that she showed to nobody because it wasn't for anybody. It was just for the pleasure of making, she told Dr. Assay about it, who received the information with quiet satisfaction. The return of making things, Dr. Assay said. Is that what it is? Creativity is often one of the last things to return after major grief. It requires a kind of openness that grief closes off for a while. The fact that it's coming back is a good sign. Maya thought about this. I've also been, she stopped. Yes? I've been thinking about the future. Not just the near future. Farther ahead. She picked at the edge of her sleeve, which I haven't done since, before. She'd stopped being able to imagine the future after Daniela. The future had seemed like a country she'd been banned from, or that had disappeared. What does the future look like? Dr. Ussi asked. Maya had been expecting some version of this question, had been sitting with it herself, so the answer, when she found it, was considered. There's work I want to do, projects, a kind of civic architecture that's more about the social function of space, which is something I got interested in through Daniela's work. And there's Roz. Tell me about Roz. We're taking it slowly. Both of us are being careful. But it's real. She's real. I care about her, and I feel like she sees me, the whole me, including the grief, and she doesn't want me to put it away. Maya looked at her hands. I think that's what I was afraid of with anyone new. That I'd have to choose between loving who I was with Daniela and being with someone new. And Roz doesn't make me choose. No, Dr. Assay said gently. No, Maya agreed. She just stays while I figure it out. What staying looked like, specifically. In the weeks of January and February, it looked like Roz learning Maya's coffee order, oat milk flat white. 1 sugar, and sometimes arriving with it unannounced. Not intrusively but warmly, the small domestic language of paying attention. It looked like Maya learning Roz's shift schedule and not calling during the hours when she was likely on a run, and texting a simple good shift. When she knew Roz was coming off duty and receiving back a short report of the day, nothing exciting. 1 kitchen fire, elderly couple, both fine. Or a long one. House fire, everyone out. They looked up our response time in the paper. Or, occasionally, it was a good day. Missy. It looked like Roz meeting Priya, which happened by accident when Priya arrived at Maya's apartment with wine and no notice and found Roz there, and which resulted in a friendship between Priya and Roz that Maya observed with mingled amusement and mild possessiveness and finally just pleasure. Priya approved, which she communicated to Maya with a thumbs-up emoji sent during a bathroom break at work the following Monday. It looked like Maya meeting Carmen and Roz's other sister, Valentina, at a family lunch in a mission that was ostensibly casual but which Maya understood, from the care everyone took with it, to be an assessment. Carmen was warm and sharp and asked Maya questions about architecture with genuine interest. Valentina was quieter and watched Maya with thoughtful eyes and, at the end of the lunch, said, "You should come to the 4th of July thing. We rent a house in Sonoma. It's kind of chaotic, but it's good chaos." This felt significant. Maya said she'd love to. It looked like Rose driving Maya to be at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday night when a panic attack became severe enough to scare both of them, and sitting in the waiting room for 3 hours without complaint, and driving her home when she was cleared, and sleeping on the couch so Maya wasn't alone, and not once saying it was fine or making her feel weak or broken. The next morning, making eggs, being ordinary, asking if she'd like to call her therapist. Already texted her, Maya said. Good, Roz set the plate in front of her. You scared me a little. I scared myself. Yeah. A pause. You're doing the right things. Am I? Maya picked up her fork. I still have panic attacks. I still cry sometimes when I'm alone. I'm still grieving, Roz said. You're still grieving. That's not the same as not doing the right things. She sat across from Maya. I had panic attacks for almost a year. 6 years ago. And I got help and they mostly stopped. But I still had them sometimes after. And I was doing everything right. The two things coexist. Maya looked at her across the kitchen table in the morning light. You know, she said, I think you might be the most grounded person I've ever met. Roz looked slightly amused. I don't know about that. I do. Maya searched for words. It's like you're not afraid of the hard parts. You just look at them and say, yes, that's the hard part, and then you deal with it. I've had a lot of practice, Roz said. She was quiet for a moment. Also, I have a therapist too. Have had for years. We talk about the job and the stuff that comes with the job. It helps. She met Maya's eyes. I don't think anyone gets grounded entirely on their own. You need other people. You needed other people, Maya agreed. And one of the people you stopped and stayed with in a parking lot. Roz's expression was warm. Felt like the only option. I know, Maya said. That's the thing about you. Spring arrived in the way it does in San Francisco. Tentatively, the rain's still frequent, but the day's beginning to hold more light. The hills went bright green, which they did every year and which never failed to surprise Maya. The green that rose up like joy out of the wet brown winter earth dot she had begun working on evenings and weekends. On a project that was not for any client, a conceptual design for a public, gathering space that incorporated Daniela's ideas about cities and feelings. She'd been reading Daniela's dissertation. She'd read it when it was completed. 3 months before the accident, had read it again in the grief year, and was reading it a third time now with different eyes. The ideas in it were good. They deserved to do something. She told Roz about it one evening in March. Sitting on her balcony in their jackets because the March evenings still demanded jackets. And Roz listened and asked questions and said, at the end, that's a good thing to do. That's the right thing to do. It's not professional. It might not go anywhere. That's not why you're doing it. No, Maya agreed. I'm doing it because she searched for the word. Continuance. Her ideas continuing. That feels important. Roz was looking at her with an expression Maya was learning to read, the one that meant she was feeling something she was deciding how to express. You're remarkable, Roz said quietly. Maya shook her head. I'm just figuring out how to carry all of it. The grief and the work and the living, and now this new project and being here with me. And you're doing it. That's remarkable. Maya looked at her. The city spread out below the balcony, lights beginning to come on in the dusk. You make it easier, she said. Being here makes it easier. They looked at each other. Maya, Roz said, yes, I love you. She said it simply, with the same direct quality she brought to everything. Not a declaration exactly. More like a fact she was reporting. I thought you should know. I'm not saying it to change anything or to get anything. You should know that. Maya felt the words land in her chest, in the specific place where the most important things went. She'd been thinking about this or toward it. For weeks, the direction things were moving. The quality of what she felt when she woke up and knew she'd see Roz that day. The shape of the fear that had quietly been changing into something else. I love you too, she said. It came out without difficulty, which surprised her. She thought when this moment arrived, it would feel complicated, burdened with everything that had come before it. But it felt clear, clean, like the first warm day after a long winter. You know, winter is not over, but today is warm. And you were allowed to feel that. Roz smiled, slow and full. And Maya thought she had never seen anything as good as that smile in the blue dusk on her balcony. Come here, Maya said. And Roz came, and they sat together with the city below them and the spring air around them and the long, complicated, real life of each of them between them and nothing left to hide. Loving someone after loss, Maya discovered, was its own education. Not a lesser version of what had come before, but a different subject in the same school, the same materials. Different lessons. She'd loved Daniela with the whole body investment of someone who had never loved like that before. The fearless certainty of a first real love before she knew what loss was. She loved Roz knowing what it meant to be undone by the absence of someone. Knowing that the people you loved were not permanent. And loving anyway with open eyes. This was harder in some ways. There were moments, not often, but they came, when Maya would be with Roz and feel the future stretch out and feel, along with the warmth of it, the distance still to fall. The way loving someone means agreeing to their eventual absence. One way or another, she told Roz this because she'd gotten better at telling Roz things. I know that feeling, Roz said. They were lying on Maya's bed on a Sunday morning in April, the window letting in a thin strip of light, neither of them with any particular obligation to be anywhere. I've thought about it with the job. The risk. Do you think about it a lot? Not obsessively. But it's there. It's part of honesty, I think. Knowing that what we do is dangerous. A pause. But I also think if I spent all my energy dreading the possible loss, I wouldn't be able to be present for the actual thing. The actual now. The actual now, Maya repeated. Yeah, Maya turned toward her. The actual now is pretty good. It is, Roz agreed. She was looking at the ceiling, a small smile at the corner of her mouth. Roz. I want to move forward. I don't mean Maya felt her way through it. I don't mean I need to rush anything. I just mean I want you to know that I'm not stuck. I'm not going to be in the same place in a year that I'm in now. I'm moving. She paused. Toward you. Roz turned to look at her. The morning light was on her face. And Maya was struck, not for the first time, by how much she liked looking at her. Okay, Roz said. Okay, Maya agreed. They lay there in the Sunday morning quiet. And the actual now was, indeed, quite good. The harder conversations came too. The ones about logistics and the practical architecture of two people building something together. Roz's schedule was irregular, 24 hours on, 48 hours off. The long shifts that meant she was sometimes unreachable in ways that required Maya to be okay on her own. This was manageable. Maya had always valued her independence, and the space that Roz's schedule created had the quality of breathing room rather than absence, but they had to talk about what it meant when Roz was on a bad call. And Maya saw it on the news, and the 5 hours of not knowing could not be addressed by texting because Roz was working. They made an agreement. Roz would text when she was off a scene, even if it was just fine. Maya would not call the station in the meantime unless she had a genuine emergency. This was a trade that felt fair. It acknowledged what was real without treating either of them as fragile. They talked about the apartment question with the careful pragmatism of two people who have both learned from experience that rushing spatial decisions has consequences. Not yet was the answer they arrived at, mutually and without grievance. Not yet and not ever rushed. I like having a place that's mine, Maya said. I like that you have a place that's yours. Right now. Right now, Roz agreed. What about later? Maya considered this. Later, I think I want to share a space with you. If it's the right space. She meant this in the particular way architects mean it, literally and metaphysically. The right space. One they chose together. We could design it, Roz said. I'm the only one of us who can design it. You could design it and I'd give feedback. Roz's expression was perfectly neutral. I've developed opinions about spatial design through my career. Egress, circulation, load-bearing considerations. Those are structural engineering concerns. I'm a versatile consultant. Maya laughed. And it was real and full and comfortable, the laugh of someone who feels at home. Summer came. And Roz's family's 4th of July gathering in Sonoma, which was exactly as described, a rented house. A large and warm and loud extended family, excellent food, children everywhere. The long California evening full of fireflies and laughter. Maya had been nervous on the drive up. Roz had known this without being told and had put on a playlist that Maya liked, and hadn't asked about the nervousness. Just let it exist without amplifying it. By the second hour, Maya had been conscripted into a corn-shucking operation by Carmen, who had opinions about corn-shucking technique and wanted to share them with someone who was listening properly. By the fifth hour, she was teaching two of Carmen's children how to count in binary, which they were regarding as a kind of magic trick. By the time the fireworks were going off over the valley, she was sitting on the back porch with a glass of something cold. Roz beside her, the house full of Roz's family behind them. And she was content. You survived, Roz said. I more than survived. Maya looked at the fireworks. Your family it's a lot, but it's a good lot. Carmen likes you. Carmen likes my corn-shucking technique. That's Carmen's primary criterion for friendship. Yes, Roz's voice was warm. She's not wrong about the technique, for the record. She taught it to me. I thought it was her criterion, so I followed it closely. Roz laughed. Maya felt the laugh more than heard it, the way you feel the vibrations of something close. Roz, Maya said. Yeah, I'm happy tonight. She said it simply, the same way Roz reported things. A fact worth noting. I wanted to tell you. Roz was quiet for a moment. Me too, she said. Very happy. The fireworks continued their patient, spectacular conversation with the dark sky. Below them, the valley breathed its summer breath. And behind them, the house was full of the comfortable noise of people who love each other and have gathered together in the light. Maya thought about a parking lot in October. A sky that was a color that wasn't a color. A voice that had said, you're having a panic attack. They feel terrible, but they pass. She thought about Daniela saying, don't make grief into a life, Maya. She thought about what she was building, patient and careful and open-eyed. Out of what she'd survived, she reached for Roz's hand. And Roz's hand was already there. October comes back around. Because it always does, Maya's first October with Roz has a different quality than the October of the parking lot, or the October before that, when she'd been 3 months into grief and the world had looked like something seen through glass, visible but unreachable. This October, the leaves are gold on the hills and the sky's a color that she knows now is called October sky blue, because she's been calling it that all year. She's been calling it that since she told Roz the story. And Roz had said with complete seriousness, that's a real color. And Maya had looked at her and understood that this was a person who was going to make her life larger rather than smaller. She's at the grocery store, a different one than the parking lot. Though she's been back to that one too, and it is now just a grocery store when she sees the Lucky Charms. She takes them off the shelf without hesitation. She is not crying. She's not in crisis. She's just a woman buying cereal, carrying, as she always will, the weight and the love of everything that has come before. The cereal is for herself. She likes Lucky Charms. She didn't know that until 11 months of grief and one parking lot morning and a firefighter, who counted her breaths, taught her to notice what she actually wanted. She texts Roz from the cereal aisle. Lucky Charms for dinner? The response is immediate, only if uninvited. You are always invited, Maya writes back. She means it in every dimension of the word. The civic gathering space project, the one inspired by Daniela's dissertation on cities as feelings, was accepted by the city's Arts and Culture Commission in November, 18 months after Maya started the design. It was to be built in a park in the Mission, 2 blocks from the mural Daniela had been most proud of, the one that still covered the entire side of a building on 24th Street in blues and terracottas, the colors, Maya understood now, of October sky. The design incorporated Daniela's core argument that public gathering spaces should be designed not just for function but for emotional resonance. That architecture could either close people toward themselves or open them toward each other, and that the difference lay in the details of light and scale, and how space was offered to the body. Maya presented it at the commission meeting with Priya, beside her and Roz in the back row, in her off-duty clothes, having come straight from a shift. After the commission voted yes, they went out. The 3 of them and Carmen and Valentina, who had shown up unannounced with flowers, to a restaurant in the Mission and stayed until the restaurant closed. In her toast, Carmen said, to the things we build and the people we build them with, and the people who showed us how. Maya raised her glass. Beside her, Roz was smiling the slow, real smile. Under the table, their hands were connected. To all of them, Maya said they found the house in February. A year and a half after the parking lot, which Maya still thought of as the beginning. Even though she understood now that beginnings are not usually recognizable as such, in the moment it was a Victorian in the outer sunset. 2 blocks from the park, close enough to Station 12 to satisfy Roz's preference for a minimal commute. Large enough that Maya had a proper office for the architecture work and the design work and the ongoing, expanding project of herself. It had a back garden that was overgrown and therefore full of possibility. It had a bay window in the front room that let in the particular morning light of the west side of the city, which was different from the light everywhere else, softer, filtered by the marine layer. Diffuse and honest, they stood in the empty living room on the day they got the keys, and Roz turned around slowly, taking in the proportions, the ceiling height, the original plaster details. "What do you think?" Maya asked. "I think it's ours," Roz said. And that was exactly right. They painted together over a long weekend. The two of them and Priya and Emilio from the station, who turned out to have strong opinions about color and excellent technique, and who claimed both of these things were coincidental to his friendship with Roz. The walls came out of warm cream in the main rooms and a deep, grounded blue-green in Maya's office, which was the color she'd been turning over in her mind for months. "October sky?" Roz asked, looking at the office color when it was done. "Adjacent," Maya said. "A little deeper." Roz stood in the doorway of the finished room and nodded slowly. "It's good." She looked at Maya. She'd have liked the color. "Yes," Maya said. "I think so too." That night, their first night in the house, they ordered pizza from the place 2 blocks away. It was not yet time to figure out the kitchen, and sat on the living room floor among the boxes, eating from the open box with a kind of ease that comes from knowing exactly who you're with. "This is the actual now," Roz said. Maya looked at the boxes and the empty walls and the bay window with the February streetlight coming through it. "This is a very good actual now," she said. They clinked their water glasses. The house settled around them. Old wood and old plaster and the quiet history of all the people who had lived and loved in these rooms before, and the open pages of their own story going forward. 3 years after a parking lot in October, Maya is in her office in the outer Sunset house, at her drafting table in the early morning, working on preliminary concepts for a community health center, the kind of project she's been increasingly drawn to since the civic gathering space. The work that sits at the intersection of space and human need. Through the window, she can hear the sounds of morning, the quiet neighborhood stirring, a bird she's been trying to identify for 2 weeks. The distant sound of the Njita on its route from downstairs. She hears the specific particular sound of Roz moving around the kitchen, which she knows the way you know the sounds of someone you love. Footstep by footstep, cabinet by cabinet. The particular way the coffee maker hisses when it's almost done. She still sees Dr. Issei, though less frequently, once a month now, maintenance rather than crisis. She still has bad days, the kind where the grief arrives fresh and specific. A particular song, a quality of light, a corner of the city where she and Daniela used to walk. She does not try to prevent these days anymore. They come and she is in them, and she is not alone. The civic gathering space opened in the fall. At the dedication, the city council member said something about Daniela's research and the continuance of ideas through work. And Maya had stood there with Roz's hand in hers and Priya next to her, and Carmen and Valentina and Daniela's mother, who'd flown in from Los Angeles and who had said, when she saw the design, she would have argued with some of it, which was the highest possible praise. The mural on 24th Street still stands. It will need restoration in a few years. Maya has looked into it, has made some preliminary inquiries with the building owner, who is amenable. The work continues. The garden is no longer overgrown. They planted things in the spring, tomatoes because Roz's mother insisted, herbs in a long planter along the south-facing wall, a fig tree in the corner that the nursery said would take 3 years to fruit. They're 2 years in. This year, there are 2 small figs, not yet ripe. Maya finishes the morning's work and goes downstairs. The kitchen is warm and smells of coffee and whatever Roz has been doing with the eggs. Roz is standing at the stove in a worn station t-shirt. She has a shift tomorrow and she turns when Maya comes in with the specific attention of someone who is always genuinely glad to see you, which is not diminished with familiarity. "Good morning," Roz says. "Good morning," Maya says. She pours her coffee. She's been making it herself more often. It was a bad habit she'd gotten into, being handed coffee, and stands next to Roz at the stove and looks at what's being cooked and makes a minor suggestion about the seasoning, which Roz either takes or dismisses depending on her mood, and which they both understand to be a form of affection. The morning light comes through the bay window. It is October. The sky, visible through the kitchen window, is a shade that has no official name. They eat together at the kitchen table, and afterward Roz goes to the garden to check on the figs, and Maya goes back to her office to work. They will pass each other in the hallway, share a brief intersection in the early afternoon, cook dinner together in the evening with the usual negotiation about whose turn it is to do what. This is an ordinary day. It is made of ordinary materials. It does not resemble the grand gestures of love stories as they are typically told. And it is not trying to die. It is a day in a life that was not supposed to continue in any form that felt worth having, and which has continued, and which contains a firefighter who stopped in a parking lot, a city that held its blue sky without apology, a grief that did not kill what was capable of growing after it, a love that knew what it was agreeing to, and agreed anyway. That is the whole of it. That is all of it. That is enough.